Hello and welcome, I'm Raziel, and it's Thursday, which means I'm going to review a mini, and as I'm going through some of the Wild West Exodus minis that you can get for the game, I started on the other factions, which are for more or less for the Lost World, rather than Wild West Exodus, but they are playable in Wild West Exodus. And today is one of my favourite models. I absolutely love this model. She was an absolute blast to paint and build, and she is so cool. She is one of the best backstories. She's an emissary for the Empire. Actually, let's start with her name. It's Nakano Gozen, the emissary of the Blazing Sun. And as you can see, she's really she's one of the least expensive models, named characters you're ever going to see for any wargaming. And as I said, she is an emissary for the Empire, but she is so much more than this. This is a little bit of background. There's a great vignette on the War Cradle website if you go down to the stories. Written by Sarah Corkwell, and she is an emissary, so she talks to the ambassadors, the people in charge, to try and make treaties between the Union and the Empire. So she does all that stuff, but she's also a spy and a samurai. She's a vicious fighter. She is just one of his most interesting characters I've seen in a war game for a very, very long time. I know, we're talking about a Wild West game, and here we are with a samurai, and she is absolutely fantastic. As you can see, her pose is, again, this is a static pose. As you can see, she's standing still, but there's still so much fluidity in here. From the sword being swung there, you can see how it's just been whisked up there, and it's a lovely looking model pose. And she has this very determined look on her. The way this hasn't really got much movement in it, shows her subtlety and her speed, whereas you've got a bit of wind here pushing these back, and the detail here is so nice. See, the one thing I do like about War Cradle miniatures, and I've said this before, is their detail is slightly thicker than most. It's not by much, but it's enough to really make it easier for someone to make a very nice looking model and paint it with the detail, because it stands out really well. I really do love this Japanese look. The helmet, the arms, all this cool detail. You've got the Empire's Blazing Sun emblem on her. Oh, what's that called? I don't know what that's called. On her leg there. You've got the lovely cloak with the rivets, because steampunk and Wild West and stuff like that. Her pose is fantastic. This is such a lovely model when it's so well detailed. I love all this little detail on the chest here as well. And yeah, absolutely fantastic. It's a great looking model, and I really do enjoy using her in my games. Best one to put her with is the Pride of Nakamata, the Thundercats basically, to have a full Empire posse. And this is her back. As you can see, this is the actual model unpainted, but it really does show off the detail very well. Look at all this along her cloak here, and you've got some more detail on the back here, and this is just really cool. And I really enjoyed this model, painting this model and building it, and I may actually put my picture of my really badly painted Nakano Gozen at the back of this video, so you can see that I have built and painted her. So yeah, and she comes in very few parts, which is really nice, and she is very easy to build. I say that about all War Cradle miniatures because it's true. They are very nice to build, they fit so well together, and there's no real issues when it comes to stuff like this. And there you go, and I love the way the hair is. The fact this is such a nice looking fluid model. She is things like this. See, the sword actually being used, and you've got this sword here, or katana, whatever you want to call it, in a defensive pose. A lot of people don't really realise, but this is a defensive pose for a sword. It's an old technique which was used in medieval England as well, where they have a dagger instead of a shield, and the shield, it was basically be used as a defensive weapon. And as you can see, she's using hers as a defensive weapon as well. I love these little tassels. This is also a very well painted model. I think she looks really cool. Mine doesn't. Mine looks like absolute rubbish. But this is a nice model. This is one of the first named characters I actually bought for the game because I just wanted to get her. And also one of the first time I actually bought a model just because I wanted to use her. I didn't have Lawmen at the time. I didn't have Empire or the Outlaws, which is the free faction she can join, which makes her very versatile for anyone who wants to play it. She's a nice character and you can use her in 3 different factions, which is really cool. As you can see, Outlaws, Lawmen, and the Empire. As you can see, she is very nippy with a quickness of 6. That is really cool. And she has I don't know why she's got a name. Well, 1 inch, 5. I mean, you're not going to use this woman for this model, I should say, this lovely model, for anything but close combat. And she's face as well, which means she won't take up a boss part for your model. So you can just put it in a posse is really easy. A grit of 6, so always, her armor saves are 4+. And a fight of 7, that's one of the highest in the game. That's a 3+ to hit in combat. And with a piercing of -2 and 2 attacks, makes her absolutely lethal, even fatal, in close combat. She is, like I said, and she's 15 points, which means she is low points with this sort of stat line. This sort of stat line just makes her an absolute must if you do Lawmen, Outlaws, or the Empire. She is a must-buy for your faction, because just that stat line alone is absolutely brilliant. She's also durable, which means, as always, she ignores the first point of piercing from an attack unless it has brutal, blast, or torrent quality. So it's going to be really hard to get her to have a horrid save. And where's the other one I saw? She is parry reaction. This is really cool. After hits have been allocated from a strike action to this unit, so she's been hit. The initial target, her, makes a fight check. For each point this check exceeds 10, so with a 3, so if you a 4+ with 2 attacks, so she gets a +1 to her grit for the duration of that strike action. Which means when you take your saves after she's done the parry action, after she's done the reaction, if they've not got a piercing, she now has a 3 or even a 2+ save. Ones always fail, by the way, just so you know. They're a critical fail, so if you roll a 1, she's stuffed. And for the duration of that, any conditions that would be applied by the strike action on the hit are not applied if the grit check is passed. So basically, if she gets it, she wins. It's amazing. And this, like I said, this is a lovely model. Stone Cold Killer. Anytime this unit destroys an enemy model, it receives an additional action point for this activation. The unit's action limit still applies, so she still maintains the same amount of action limits. But that is amazing. Like, if she could end up getting another tax in it if she destroys a model, that's just something else. She is absolutely amazing, an absolute must-buy for anyone who is interested into the Empire, Outlaws, or the Lawmen. It's a great looking model. This, by the way, isn't actually on the base, as you can see. Warcrate will do this a lot with these models, and I think it's pretty cool. They sort of put their own bases on it to have that nice little bit of extra flair. And yeah, absolutely, this is a must-buy for the Empire, Outlaws, or Lawmen. And like I said, if you're doing all 3 of them, you've got a model which can just pass through all 3, and you can just use that all the time in every game. And she's low points, worth it. Anyway, thank you very much for watching, as always, I appreciate your comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. I would, of course, Wayland Games, if you wish to actually purchase this model, as you can see, she's 15 quid, so the £20 free delivery after £20 doesn't apply to just her. But great model anyway. So, and of course there's other Warcradle games stuff there, and all sorts of wargaming. And a lot of the wargaming has 20% off, up to 20% off. Should say up to 20% off. There is also Forbidden Planet as well for comics, DVDs, mangas, all sorts of really cool stuff. I just picked up a Gears of War book, which was a bit of an old one. Nice to see it on sale there. I actually went into a shop, by the way. And there is my merchandise, t-shirts, stickers, travel mugs, what everyone else is doing, cool stuff. There's also my comics, a horror anthology, and one with Little Red Riding Hood going ham on Lovecraftian cyborg werewolves. I am really giving that the best description I could give it, by the way. I'm not even joking, that's how I designed them. They're weird. There is also Skyforge. Never forget Skyforge, because he's a good guy, and I wish to get him up in that Google algorithm. And Patreon, because business. Bye-bye.